Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Quick Question Podcast. My name is Gabe Ryan, alongside my co-host, Mr. Matthew Shafty. Matt, how are you doing? You're good?
That's one way to
There
put
we
it.
go. Now you're on. Sorry, I had you
What
muted for a
happened?
second. We're good.
Oh,
We're just gonna jump into this.
had a good weekend.
That's
All you
good.
need to know. That's all you
Okay.
need to know. Mhm.
Matt and I are home on Christmas break. Matt's up in Michigan. I am down in the lovely Florence, Kentucky. Big weekend in sports. Huge
Oh,
weekend.
oh yeah.
Um, it, I mean, all sports, football, college basketball. The World Cup final was
hmm
yesterday. Argentina edged France. Did you watch that game?
Oh, it was amazing.
It was
Absolutely, I
incredible.
did.
I didn't watch
Absolutely.
I didn't watch anything until like the last maybe 10, 15 minutes of the normal time, and then it
I
went.
mean, yeah, first half was just all dominated by
Yeah.
Argentina. Like
Mhm.
France looked like they did not belong. And then second half, things
Complete.
just changed.
Yeah.
It wasn't the beginning of the second half. Like it was a very even battle. And
Mhm.
then once it got to like the 65th minute, 70th, whatever,
That's when France kind
and
of turned it up.
oh, Kylian Mbappe just decided, I'm
Yeah.
going to take over this
All
match.
right.
That's what he did.
And then they go to extra time, which I didn't
Yeah.
I thought it was just like the first if someone scores in extra time, whatever they give them, I thought they won, but they have to play two 15-minute halves,
They do.
which is an eternity of time. Um and Messi scored in the second half, like
Yep.
a couple minutes in, which it was like inches away from offsides. The VAR thing that they do, like to show if they were offsides or not, like the referee replay system or whatever, like Messi or the guy that passed it to Messi was like probably like a few centimeters away from crossing the
I
line.
can't remember. I don't remember who it was. It might have been Di Maria. Um, I don't remember. Maybe McAllister. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whoever it was. Yep.
But their
And
goalie,
Messi was just right place, right time.
yeah, their goalie made an incredible save. Like he did everything he could,
Mm-hmm.
knocked the ball away, and then Messi just came and cleaned it up. And even
Yep.
the ball didn't even hit the back of the net. The France guy was just sitting in the middle of the net and knocked it away. And then Mbappe goes down on the corner kick, and he's just outside the box, takes a shot from just outside the box, but he hits an Argentina guy in the elbow, which is handball. So he gets a PK, goes and scores, and then they go to penalty shootout, and Argentina just dominated. Their goalie, Martinez, I think his name is. He,
He threw the ball and stuff.
what'd you say?
Argentina's goalie.
Yeah, he was just doing all these intimidation things and
Antics.
antics. You look like Draymond. He's the
He
Draymond
did.
of
He did.
soccer.
Of the
Just-
World Cup.
yeah, just doing all these
Yeah.
crazy things. But
That was a fun game. It honestly felt like that if France had pulled away in the second half, which they were this close to winning
Mhm.
it in regulation, and they just couldn't do it. And it felt like if they win in regulation or they win in overtime, that's it.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously that's it, but they needed to do that because we know this French team, who was against? I think it was against Italy in the European Championship.
Yeah.
Where they could not score a penalty to save their lives. And Argentina is one of those teams that specializes in shooting penalties. So it was just, hey, we have to end this game as
Mhm.
soon as we can before we get to PKs.
Yeah.
And they got the PKs, and I think honestly, I thought it was over. Like once they got there, it felt like it was done.
Yeah. There was with like maybe 2 minutes left in extra time. France had a breakaway right down the middle of the field, and Martinez made probably the greatest save in Argentina team history. He he fell to the ground and extended his entire left leg and got it right off the boot.
Yep.
Knocked it away. Unbelievable play. If he doesn't stop that ball, France wins.
Yep.
More than likely. But still an incredible game. But moving on to some other topics. NFL, huge this week. We've got 3 weeks left. Is that right?
Yeah, we got 3.
3 weeks
16,
left.
17, 18.
Okay. So some teams have played their way out of the playoff picture. Some are right on the cusp. Matt, your Lions won again against the Jets on the road. The Bengals picked up a win last night in Tampa Bay to move to 10-4 and took a
Mhm.
game lead against or over the um what's their name? The
The
Ravens.
Ravens.
The
Yeah.
Ravens. Gosh, I can't think today.
I was gonna let you figure that one
Yeah,
out.
yeah. So crazy week. Um, talk about the Colts and the Vikings game. That was one of the craziest games I think I've ever watched.
Mhm.
Um,
Man, this room got dark.
um,
It's all right.
yeah. But the Vikings were down 33 to nothing at halftime against the Indianapolis Colts and came back and won. Greatest comeback and or largest comeback deficit in NFL history in the regular season against Matt Ryan, who, shocker, blew a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. You texted me during the game and were like, "Man, I think he needs a therapist. Some
Mhm.
some major PTSD that Matt Ryan's gonna have to work through." But you have any thoughts on that game or any other games?
Uh, well, I can start with the Lions.
Okay.
So, and I have multiple
Mm-hmm.
Jets fans that are friends, and I really do feel bad because they they played well. It was a road game. They
Yeah.
played well. Great home environment for them. Tough road environment for us. And we walked in there. Zach Wilson, he played all right, and he led his team down through this ridiculous deep ball. It was to what's his name? I can't even remember. It was like a like their fourth string receiver, and they had Jeff Okuda on him, and Okuda just didn't track the ball. Made a nice catch, and they got down like inside the 30, then
Mm-hmm.
punched it in later on. And then it seemed like it was 17-14, and it was like, wow, this is really getting interesting. I don't know if the Lions can pull this out. Or was it? Oh, it was 17-13,
Yeah.
and it was like, this is getting shaky. And the Lions end up on 4th and inches. This is just after the 2-minute warning.
Mm-hmm.
They were at the 49-yard line, at their own 49-yard line, and it felt like, okay, 2-minute warning. They should have I was complaining, my entire family was complaining, like they should have gotten the snap off before the 2-minute warning so you can have a timeout after you run the ball for a first down. Well, they did not run the ball for a first down. No, they passed. And it seemed like the entire way it was in slow motion. Goff takes the snap, fakes the handoff, and he's looking to his right. And no one is open to his right, but it was a disguise. And
Mm-hmm.
it's Brock Wright comes out of the line of scrimmage. Just no one on him.
Yeah.
And looks to his left, Brock Wright, and then he goes for 51 yards for a touchdown.
It's
And I
incredible.
said before the drive to my family and friends, I was like, this is a winning defining drive.
Mm-hmm.
This is to prove, can the Lions, are they winners? Are they losers? Are they the same old Lions or the brand new Lions? Thank to the Evan
Yeah, yeah.
Foxy. Yeah.
Foxy.
Foxy. And I can't put it into words. It was great. It was awesome. They won. And
That's
then
awesome.
Zerline missed from 58 yards. He had the leg. They call him Greg the leg for a reason.
Yeah.
And I mean, it wasn't very close though. He definitely shanked it to the left. But
The
it is what it
only
is. We
the
won.
only angle I
That's what matters.
saw of Wright's touchdown was the field cam. I think the Lions
Uh-huh.
posted it on their story, but I couldn't tell like where the Lions were. I didn't know the situation. I just saw the highlight and talk about a way to shut the home fans up. Um,
Oh yeah.
that's
It
got to
got
feel good.
quiet.
Oh
It
yeah.
got quiet in that stadium.
Yeah, for sure.
That was great. That was great. And one step closer. We're finally. I don't remember the last time we were 500, or not 500. I don't remember the last time where we could be over 500. That's what I meant.
Okay.
This was like, it wasn't last year.
Yeah.
This year we were 1-1. Didn't happen. We were 500 when we started the year, and we lost our first game. Like, this is weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. We could actually be above 500 for the first time in a very long time. I don't remember the last time. So
That's awesome.
that's great.
Um, the Well, I'll talk about the Bengals real quick. Talk about a tale of two halves. The Buccaneers completely controlled the game in the first half. They were up 17-3 at the end of the first half, and the Bengals only scored their 3 points with 3 seconds left on the clock. They did a little 2-minute drill, drove down the field. Burrow made some nice throws, got them in the field goal range. McPherson knocked one through, but the entire first half, Brady was having his way. Mike Evans, Goodwin, Gage, all of their receivers were just it was insane how open they were.
It was
And
insane how beatable they looked in the first half.
yeah, oh yeah, the
After
Bengals.
beating the Chiefs and
Hmm.
dominating like
Yeah.
recently,
Hmm.
it was like whoa. And I kept texting our one of our group chats with all of our
Yeah.
people from Xavier. I said, "Who day?" After every mistake they made, who
Yeah.
day times two.
Well,
Then do you know what I'm gonna say?
oh,
Yeah, I
but
put that in the chat. That was, and then I went to mass and came back from mass, looked
mhm.
at TV, and they were down, or who was it? The Buccaneers were down like 28-17 or something. Like,
it
what happened?
so like I said, Brady was having his way with the Bengals defense, who for the last few weeks have played just as good as any defense in the in the NFL. Um, Burrow on the first drive of the game, they're driving. They're probably at 40. They've probably driven 40 yards at this point, and he makes a good decision over the middle of the field, but Buccaneers lineman got his hands up, knocked the ball up in the air, interception, and that changed the tide of the first half because the offense did not look good at all after that. And then they got some momentum with the 2 minute drill that got the field goal, and then fast forward to the second half, Bengals stop Brady finally on the first possession. Then they go down and score. Even though their defense played incredible in the second half, they forced 4 turnovers. A couple of them were gifts. I will acknowledge that. They tried a fake punt. Giovanni Bernard, former Bengal, looked like he was not too ready for it. Ball just bounced off of him, and special teams recovered it. And then Trey Flowers made an incredible interception. Um, like picked it right off the turf, made a diving play for that. And then DJ Reader forced another fumble for Brady. Jermaine Pratt picked one off. And then Brady, I don't know what he was doing, but Brady was going to hand it off to Leonard Fournette and literally just like threw it at him. He didn't stick it in his chest. He didn't do it. He just threw it at him, and the ball bounced away, and the Bengals recovered it. So I think that's 5 turnovers technically. One of them was forced turnover from the Bengals. But Buccaneers, man, I think the bottom fell out. Brady didn't look good. Lou Anarumo, another second half adjustment, locked up Mike Evans and Godwin, um, or Goodwin, however you say his last name. And then Burrow and the offense benefited because most of their possessions started inside the 50-yard line on the Buccaneers side of the field. They didn't have to make that many plays to get touchdowns. They cashed in. Boyd, Chase, Higgins, and Wilcox all had receiving touchdowns. McPherson had a couple field goals. So they came through when they needed to. The game was not very pretty, but the Bengals improved to 10-4. They take a lead over the Ravens since they lost to the Browns on Saturday, 13-3. They're still without Lamar Jackson, which is huge for them. The Bengals have a really tough game in New England next week against the Patriots. That's never an easy place to play. And the Ravens don't have that tough of a schedule going down the stretch, but they do meet with the Bengals last game of the year at Paycor Stadium, not Paul Brown, but Paycor Stadium. So it all could come down to that for the AFC North if the Ravens can figure some stuff out. But just another weird comeback. The first time Brady has ever lost up 17 in his career. He was 89-0 going into that, and I don't know really what happened. And then we talked about the Colts, and the Vikings game was crazy, and then the Patriots Raiders game, the ending. Oh my God, Matt, do you want to talk a little bit about
What
that?
even happened? They handed it off to Stevenson, and I felt like, oh, they're just gonna take this to overtime. There's no way they do anything crazy here, right? And they I don't what they
I,
kind of just like threw it backwards, and first it was Ramondre Stevenson to Jacoby Myers, and then Myers just tried to throw it back to
I
Mac
don't.
Jones, which like if you're throwing it that far back, you should
he,
the game. Just take it to overtime,
he
right? There's
wasn't
no reason.
the best part. He wasn't even close. He wasn't even
No.
close. And then
So,
Mac Jones, valiant effort to try to tackle the
oh
defender
my,
at the end, but
Chandler Jones.
oh,
That was a
he
Derrick Henry stiff arm.
he ended his life.
Chills.
He ended
Yeah.
his life. That was hard to watch. But
I can't imagine Belichick. But like
oh,
what? Mm. Oh my gosh.
but talk about the play before that to tie the game. The Raiders caught the ball in the back right of the end zone, and I think they reviewed it. And on the replay, it looked as though the Raiders receiver, his toe was clearly over the white line out of bounds, but they still
Oh yeah.
counted the touchdown.
Yeah.
So you talk about some poor officiating to tie the game. The Patriots do something very uncharacteristic, make one of the wildest plays. It was almost like butt fumble esque stupidity,
Hmm.
or the Colts play a number of years ago where they lined up um, on, I don't remember if it was a punt or a field goal, where they put the entire team on the side of the field and they just had the long snapper and the punter to try to gain a yard against the Patriots, and the Patriots just like surrounded him with six guys and
Hmm.
he had nowhere to go. It was like one of the dumbest plays. Pat McAfee thinks it's the dumbest play in sports history, but I don't I wouldn't want to be around Belichick after that. That was
No,
brutal.
that was terrible. That was horrible. There were some other games too. We could like the Vikings Colts. We already know about that. That was insane. Refs
Dolphins
weren't great,
Bills.
but Dolphins Bills was good. Yeah,
Mhm.
very good. I think I'm not convinced with the Browns yet, but they just beat the Ravens. Helped you guys out.
Mhm.
13-3. Good defense, but it's also against what Anthony Brown, whoever was playing quarterback over there.
Yeah. They're on
Yeah,
their
that
third
was
string quarterback, I'm pretty
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Which,
But a win's a win, right?
yeah.
That's that's all you need
At this
in this
point,
league.
yeah, at this point in the year, you're figuring out which teams are more legit than others, but also you're seeing which teams have depth. The
Yep.
Bengals have had some really big injuries, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Trey Hendrickson just went out. Mike Hilton was out. Sam Hubbard went out during the game. Cheeto Awujie's been out for a few weeks. So you
Mhm.
talk about some very solid defensive players, but the guys that have come in to step up for them have played really well. Cam
Yep.
Sample, Joseph Asai, Cam Taylor Britt, who also went down in the game yesterday, Trey Flowers. Some guys have stepped up and played really big minutes for the Bengals, and you can see that all across the league. The Bills, the Chiefs, um, just a number of teams that are peaking at the right time. But injuries are such a part of the game, especially at this point in the season where season's dragging on. Guys are getting a little bit more brittle just because their bodies have been beat up for the last 14 weeks. Um,
Yep.
so last 3 weeks of the season, there could be some big injuries. Something that might happen with quarterback, running back, defensive end, whatever it is. And we'll see if these teams can have guys that come in and step up. And it's going to be majorly important for teams like the Bills, the Chiefs, the Dolphins, and then the Vikings.
Yep.
And you talk about a terrible division in the Buccaneers division. They're 6-8 and winning. That's bad. That's
I know.
terrible.
Well, the Lions play the
And the
the
Lions,
Panthers
yeah, yeah.
next week. That's going to be a fun one. It's
Hmm.
in Carolina. That's a big one for the Panthers and the Lions. But every game now is our biggest game ever sent
Yeah,
for a long time. Every
yeah.
game that we play is, if we keep winning, is like, wow, this is our biggest game in forever. So,
And
well,
same thing with the Niners. I mean, Brock Purdy, Jimmy
hmm
Garoppolo's out for the rest of the year, and another backup has to come in and assume a role. The last
uh-huh.
2 weeks, he's looked very, very good. He's
hmm
looked probably better than Jimmy Garoppolo, but the way that offense works in San Francisco,
it's
they just
they have a three quarterbacks that can all succeed in that offense. So,
yeah, I mean, they run the ball so much. Basically, you just need a game manager,
mhm.
really. You don't have to do anything crazy, crazy. Um,
Yep.
but
I think real quick,
yeah, yeah.
let's point out some other games, and then we'll move on to college basketball because conference play is rolling around right now. It's started. So, um, Giants and Commanders. Giants really squeaked one out there. Commanders were this close and couldn't get it done, and that hurts the Commanders. Both teams have a very tough schedule, but really, whoever won this game, right? All they need is one more win, and they're probably in the wild card. The Commanders took a huge shot in the foot there. I mean, like it was they were this close, right? This close. They too many penalties at the very end, right? They got down to like first and goal, a couple penalties, and really hurts. But it's all right. Chargers now they're the 5 seed now at 8-6. Um, they've won what 2 or 3 in a row, and they're playing well at the right time. They're peaking right at the right time. They beat the Titans, and the Titans are really looking a little shaky right now. They still have the Jags, and I think the Jags could find their way into the 4 seed. We shall see though. Um, who else had a good who had a good week? Saints Falcons. That was an interesting one, but
Well,
they're both playing
the
for the NFC South.
Jaguars walked off against the Cowboys in
Uh
overtime.
huh.
Pick
Oh yeah.
six, 60-yard pick six.
I was.
Um,
Who was it off? Was it off of C.D. Lamb or Noah Brown's
I
hands,
forget.
and then
Yeah, it was
straight into
popped
the?
up in the air. They
Yeah.
made a great play off the ricochet and then took it 60 yards to the house. Um,
Yep.
Sorry, Michael, if you're listening
Yeah.
to this. That's a rough way
It is what
to
it
go
is.
out.
They're
I
still
mean,
10-4.
things
Like
happen.
I
They're good.
yeah, things happen. They'll be
Yeah.
fine. Honestly, they have to play a little better down the stretch. Last week wasn't a cakewalk for them either. But
Well, good thing they're playing against the NFC, not the AFC, because NFC's got a
yeah,
lot. Eh. I mean, I know there's some teams at the top that are good, but I
mhm.
don't think it's as deep as a conference as the AFC is, at least this year.
I think it
Um,
just depends who you play.
yeah.
But
And
yeah.
hopefully, if they can keep it up the next few weeks, they're on the opposite side from the Niners and wouldn't have to face them until the NFC Championship.
Mhm.
Um,
If they get there.
if they get there, that's true. Every win's important, especially the last 3 weeks with the teams that are in it.
Mhm.
Any other games? Who's playing?
Um.
Who's playing tonight?
Oh, that's Packers and Rams are tonight.
Okay.
That's a big one for the Lions.
Yeah.
If anyone's, it's a really big one for the Lions. Next week we got some good games too. I mentioned Lions and Panthers, Bengals and Patriots are going to be good. Saints and Browns have playoff implications. Thursday night has playoff implications between the Jags and Jets. Bills and Bears. The Bears competed very well at the Eagles. We'll see if
Mm-hmm.
the Bills can go to Soldier Field and pull that one out. I think they probably will. Giants and Vikings. Vikings need to figure it out in the first half of football games, and they play a Giants defense and run game that has been very successful all season.
Mm-hmm.
Chiefs and Seahawks. Chiefs can just up their status. Seahawks need this win for their playoff hopes. They've lost 3 in a row.
Go Seahawks.
Not looking great for them. No, I
Why
not cheering
not?
for the Seahawks anymore because I need the Lions to get in the playoffs over them.
Well, okay, but I want
Oh,
the
Kenneth
Chiefs to
Walker.
lose. I want the Chiefs to lose. The Chiefs or the Bills need to lose.
You're still gonna be in the playoffs.
I
I'm fighting for my
I
life
know.
here.
But it would be a miracle if they got the 1 seed.
I know. I get that. I get that. But you know, it's okay.
That's what we're
You know,
gunning for.
you're gonna play the Bills one on one coming up. This is gonna
I
be a very
know. I
fun game. It
know.
was week 17. It's gonna be great.
I know. But if the Chiefs, you know what I mean.
I know. I know what you mean.
Okay.
Titans need a bounce back win terribly, like really bad. They play the Texans at home. That should be a win, but the Texans are finding ways to compete with good teams. You saw it last week with the Chiefs, and you saw it the week before with the Cowboys, and they just can't figure out a way to win. It's kind of like the Lions from last year, where they're this close, just can't find that way to win. There are other very solid games like the Eagles and Cowboys, and Dolphins and Packers are a good one. That's going to be a very important game for the Dolphins, who are slipping at the wrong time. But if we missed any, we'll get to them.
Okay.
I think the NFL will get to them.
All right. So talking some college basketball this weekend. Again, another loaded weekend of college basketball. Do you want to start with Houston and Virginia?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Okay.
So Houston, Virginia. So Houston went into Virginia and surprised the Cavaliers. It's a fun one. I didn't really watch much of it at all, but
I watched the highlights of the game. Virginia's undefeated going into this game. They've got some good depth, good point guard play out of Kihei Clark, who's still there after 10,000 years in college basketball.
I watched some of it. I thought Trayvon Mark and Jamal Shed had really big roles over there.
Yeah.
So did Jarris Walker and Marcus Sasser.
Yeah, Marcus Sasser
all
had
those
some
guys
big
played really
buckets.
well. I
Shed.
think I think those were the guys that really dominated the minutes, the
Hmm.
minute totals. Jawan Roberts also put in some points too. But
Yeah.
yeah, those were really the four guys that dominated against Virginia. It was a pretty low scoring game for the standards of Houston. Virginia really prides themselves on defense.
It's that pack line defense, baby.
Mhm.
Um, it,
And it's a balanced group too.
mhm.
Um, yeah, Reese Blackman looking right now, he had 34 minutes, but only went 1 for 5. Um, let's see, Caden Shedrick put in 16 points. Jaden Gardner put in 13. So Kihei Clark also had 8 assists, which is
Yeah.
pretty respectable. But
Yeah, one
yeah,
thing that Houston did very well, at least defensively, is they put Kihei Clark in positions to where he had to score and he had to shoot threes. And
mhm.
Virginia's not as good of a team when he's not getting in the middle of the lane,
Yep.
facilitating, getting the big guys involved. Um, whenever s- gets the rock and supposed to produce a lot on offense, that's where they get themselves in trouble. They have a really good big man. I forget his name. He's like 7'1" or 7'2", very mobile, good finisher around the rim. He was huge. Ben Vanderplas, who's a transfer from Ohio, he played really big minutes, made some
Mhm.
threes, good outside threat. Um, so Virginia's a good team. Houston's
Yeah.
obviously a very good team too, so it's really not that bad of a loss. Give them some good experience going into the ACC play and then further into the NCAA tournament. But
Yeah.
Houston,
I
t-
think Houston actually did a pretty solid job of rebounding as
oh
well.
yeah,
They
yeah,
they actually out rebounded the Cavaliers, which they're not a big team, but they're a very experienced team.
they're
And so
very,
is Virginia's experienced.
yeah,
But I wouldn't have thought that Houston in a road environment, even though I when I talked to my brothers, I thought Houston was a better team and that they were gonna win. I didn't think that they would out rebound Virginia on the road by a margin of what, 5 or 6.
no,
So
that
yeah.
doesn't happen.
Nope.
And talk about a program that's been really fun to watch the last few years is Houston. They play together, they play sound defensively. They they're freaky athletic, so when they get out in transition, they're throwing down some highlight plays, but also they can spread the floor, they can shoot the ball. I remember watching the Houston Villanova game, the Elite 8 game last year. That talk about two programs that are just really disciplined, really sound on both ends of the ball. That was really good. Um, but Shed is the leader. He's tough, and being the head of the
Yeah.
snake, offensively and defensively, he'll pick you up full court. He commands
Mhm.
that offense. But Kelvin Sampson's done a tremendous job the last few years with that Houston Cougars club. Um, and then we'll talk about the CBS,
UCLA.
yeah, yeah, CBS Sports Classic at Madison Square Garden in New York City. We had first game of the day was UCLA or not UCLA, North Carolina and Ohio State. They played at
Hmm.
3 o'clock on Saturday. Ohio State was pretty controlling during the first half. They played really well. They were up as much as 17 maybe, and North Carolina at the very end of the first half started making little runs, chipping away at the lead, and then second half wore down Ohio State. Baycott and Caleb Love took over towards the end of the game, forced the
Yep.
game into overtime, and then Ohio State kind of fell apart. Baycott had his way. The superior center um, came through, and North Carolina just willed their way to victory. It wasn't a very clean game, but I'm sure that's one Ohio State wants back. They
Oh
had
yeah.
every chance to win against North
I mean,
Carolina.
yeah. After that first half, it,
Hmm.
it seemed like Ohio State, like, wow, this team is really impressive. Because
Yeah,
North Carolina, I get like, oh, they haven't played that well this year, but they'll be fine.
yeah.
They got their
I mean,
big
they're
three. And their big three like really stepped up in this game. RJ Davis with 21,
yeah,
Armando Bacot with what, 28 and 15 or
yeah.
something, and
He's
then
completely
Caleb
took
Love
over.
with 22. I mean, all those guys. When you have guys that are getting around 40 minutes a game, I mean, plus overtime, right?
Hmm.
Around 40 minutes, and especially a big man like Bacot, where grabs that number. That's tough to stop. That's
Yeah,
really tough to stop.
Zed
They had.
Key Zed Key for Ohio State is their anchor in the middle,
Mhm,
but he's just not as tall as some of these guys. And Baycott was just shooting over him. He'd get really
mhm.
deep in post, made some really good moves around him, finishing with both hands. And there's a point guard for Ohio State that's a freshman. I forget what his name is, but he's a very, very good player. There was a couple possessions that I was watching. North Carolina forced Ohio State really deep into the shot clock. It looked really bleak for Ohio State, but he made a move, made a step back, made a fall away jumper, made a move to get around a guy. He just made plays when he needed to, and that's huge for
Yeah.
Ohio State moving forward, especially being a freshman. Like he looked well beyond his years in college basketball.
Mhm.
Um, so again, one you want back if you're Ohio State, but for North Carolina, that's a very important win moving forward, especially because of some of the struggles since the PK 85 and even in the PK 85. And then UCLA played UK right after.
Here, let's go. So quickly, I'm going to
Yeah.
mention for Ohio State. This season, they're really going to need a lot out of Justice Suing,
Hmm.
and they did get production out of him in this game. Big Ten play, he has got to
Yeah.
be a very good player. Like he has to be. Honestly, he doesn't have to be. He could be Ohio State's best player in Big Ten play, but he's got to balance his production and offense with um, the way that people see him as a defender. He's just got to show that in the Big Ten. I know he was hurt last year, so we'll see what he does. I think you're talking about Bryce Sensabaugh.
Hmm.
Sensabaugh put in 22 points.
Yeah.
He was
He's a
phenomenal
dog.
in that game. Yeah,
Uh,
8 rebounds for
Ohio's
yeah.
Ohio State's one of their biggest issues is going to be depth and not relying too much on their starters. And Big Ten is a very tough conference, so you get halfway through the conference season, at the end of the conference season, some of those guys are going to be really worn down. But you, that's the beautiful thing about college basketball is you have a lot of time to develop things, and it's harder
Yep.
to develop things in conference play because the games are so meaningful. You want your best guys on the floor, but Ohio State's got some talent. Maybe they'll get hot at some point, get into the NCAA tournament, or make a run in the Big Ten tournament at the end of the year.
Yep.
But there's some good things happening in Columbus. So
Mm-hmm.
moving on to UCLA UK. UCLA won 63 to 53. Defensively, UCLA this past week has looked really, really good. They
Oh yeah.
smoked Maryland at Maryland. They were up as many
Yeah.
as 40 points at one point. And for a Kevin Willard Maryland coach team that's usually got some pretty good offense and even defense, they, man, I think Kevin Willard used 3 timeouts in the first 12 minutes of the game. He was just not having it. But Jaime
Mm-mm.
Jaquez, Tiger Campbell, and company really dominated UK. They limited Shibwe's touches. I think Shibwe probably still had 20 something points.
I don't think he did.
Or he
I
didn't?
don't. No, I don't think he did. I don't even know if he hit double digits. I'm gonna be honest.
Really? Can you look that up?
Yeah.
I want to be
No, I'll look
correct on
that up.
that.
Yeah.
But UCLA did a really, really good job against Shibwe, limiting his touches, forcing UK to shoot perimeter shots. UK, in the games that I've watched them this year, they just don't have many answers from outside. And there's a couple guys, CJ Frederick can get hot.
Mhm.
And gosh, I forget Reeves. He's also a good 3-point shooter. But if those guys aren't shooting and making everything, they pretty much don't have any outside shooting
Yep.
whatsoever.
Yep.
Shavir Wheeler is not a shooter. If you force
Mm-mm.
him to shoot threes, good things are going to happen to you. And if
I
he's
mean,
not,
unless he makes him, which he
unless
did
he
against
makes them,
State.
but
Yeah.
he doesn't have good form. He's not very confident from three, and
Mm.
he's not the guy that you want shooting threes. But
Yeah.
if you're a
Right.
good defense, you're going to force him to shoot threes. You're going to lay off of him on the drive because he's very, very quick. Um, but Kentucky, they just, man, they have some stretches where they look really good, and then they have stretches where they look like freshmen. They're throwing
Yep.
alley oops that land in the cameraman's lap because they're trying to no look alley oop off a
Mm-hmm.
drive. It's just there's some sort of disconnect in UCLA. Defensively, they're just really good. That's what you expect from a Mick Cronin coach team. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they've got a lot of experience. Jaime Jaquez, man, he's just a baller.
Oh yeah, he was
And
really good. Yeah, 19 and
off,
12
yeah, offensively,
played
they
really
didn't
well.
look. I mean, UCLA wasn't anything crazy on offense, but they did enough to win.
Mm-hmm.
They do have some perimeter threats, so good win for UCLA. Really good week for them. Kentucky, you look good the previous 4 games or so. They got a big win against Michigan and London. Um, but still there's some concerns with their offense, especially getting into SEC play where they got to play Arkansas, they got to play Tennessee, they got to play some of these schools that can score. And defensively, I don't think is as much of an issue for me as it is on offense, which Kentucky struggling to score, that's a red flag and something you don't
Yep.
normally hear.
Yeah, it was a game that UCLA just looked like the better team.
Yeah,
They
they
honestly did,
dominated,
and
plain and
yeah,
simple.
Sheboy put in 8 points.
Oh wow.
Yeah, 16 rebounds, but 8 points.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um all right, moving on to Gonzaga, Alabama. This was the shootout in Birmingham. Gonzaga won 190. Drew Timmy went for 29 points. Um, this game was pretty much a track meet, and
oh yeah,
uh, my girlfriend's brother Ray was watching this game and giving me updates on it. And I think Alabama turned the ball over 17 times in the first 14 times in the first 17 minutes or 17 times in the first half, something like that. A ridiculous turnover clip, which should never happen. I don't care who you are. Um, so talk about a fast-paced game, really
yep.
no defense. Timmy did what Timmy does, and that's score a lot of points. He has really good
Mhm.
footwork inside, and Gonzaga is a team that can put a bunch on you. You saw that when they played Xavier. They hit
Yeah,
a lot, 14 threes in the game. Um, Even with Brandon Miller, Alabama couldn't come up with enough answers to stop them. And Gonzaga gets a big win. Alabama's
yep,
been as hot as any team in college basketball the last few weeks. So that's a huge win for Gonzaga. Really big resume boosting um,
yep.
win if they need it, which I
They
don't think.
had so Gonzaga had 6 guys in double figures, but
Hmm.
obviously Timmy was the one doing
Yeah.
doing all the work. And then on Alabama's side, they had 2 guys in double figures, but it was Brandon Miller that scored like 36 of their 90 points.
Yeah.
Yeah, he put up
He,
what 22 shots.
yeah.
Like he's a good player. He will end up being easily a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
I like
He's different.
he should be at least. Yeah,
He's
yeah.
like Jabari
A lot of
Smith
people.
last year for Auburn, like a
Mhm.
guy that you can just look at objectively and be like, okay, he'll be in the NBA next year.
Yeah, a lot of guys are comparing him to guys like Kevin Durant and
Hmm.
Jason Tatum.
He's
It's
long,
like you're
he can
drawing those
shoot.
comparisons. Oh yeah, yeah, and he's only a freshman too, so
Yeah, good player.
tough to stop. Yeah, Michigan State played against him, and without Malik Hall, the guy we were gonna throw on him. We
Hmm.
had Joey Hauser playing defense on Brandon Miller. It was not gonna go well,
Yeah, that's tough.
at least we only lost by 11 without 2 of our best players, without Malik Hall and Jaden Akins. But
That's
not the
like
worst loss, but not a loss you want.
I'm pretty sure Joey Hauser also had to guard the likes of Sadiq Bey and Eric Pascal at Villanova during his
Uh,
time. Talk about some freak athleticism.
mm-hmm.
Um, that's not Hauser's cup of tea, I would
No,
think. Um,
no, nope. But again,
yeah, but again,
once that team gets healthy, Michigan State will be fine. We'll get to Michigan State eventually,
yeah,
but right now we'll transition over to Tennessee.
yeah. Arizona, Tennessee, in Tucson. Arizona
Mm-hmm.
won, correct?
They did.
Okay, they were winning most of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that environment in Tucson looked incredible. They the fans like every section was divided up into navy blue shirts and white shirts, so it was like a checkered thing. Looked pretty cool on TV. Um, or what's Arizona's center? Um,
Tubelis,
Tubelis,
or sorry, Omar Bala. Omar Bala
Balo,
was their center,
Balo, and
but
Tubelis played very
yeah.
well. Balo
Uh-huh.
had some huge and ones at certain points of the game. If they need a bucket, they go down low, and it's
Uh-huh.
pretty. It's nothing more complicated than that. Kirkrisha had some big threes. Ramey had another pair of threes.
Yeah.
There were some stretches in the second half where Arizona got hot. They got some transition looks, went on a couple runs that I think helped them run away with the game. Tennessee's very tough though.
Mm-hmm.
After every run they battled back, they cut it to 2 or 3, and then they just couldn't sustain anything that was going on. But
Yep.
um, Arizona big win against Tennessee, who's
Yeah,
playing very
they
well.
got some huge rebounds
Hmm.
against Tennessee. Big rebounding numbers for them. It was really Omar Ballo. It was Tubelis, and it was also Larson too. Guys who just rebounded, got to the free throws. It was got to the foul as I'm saying foul line. I can't
Yeah.
say freaking foul line, but got to the foul line. Charity stripe, whatever you want to call it,
Charity
free throw
stripe.
line.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ba-
they
ba-
got a lot of help from the charity stripe. They got some charity points. They
Balo's not the best free throw shooter in the world, but
no.
he draws fouls and he's a
Oh
good
yeah.
finisher around the rim. Most of the time, he's only
Mhm.
shooting one free throw if he goes to the line. If you're a
Usually.
team, you want him to miss the shot because you have a
Mhm.
good chance of getting away with no points scored if he's at the line. But I'm sure that's something he'll get better at during the rest of the year. But
Mhm.
huge win for Arizona.
Yeah. Tennessee, I think obviously they had a couple guys that played well. They had Ziegler, and then they had Oliver Nakamhoa. I can't even pronounce his name, but
Yeah,
yeah, he played very well. And he grabbed 29 minutes too.
that's huge.
That's big for a very balanced Tennessee team. But on the other hand, a guy, Santiago Vescovi, he's been in college basketball for like 3 or 4 years. Really good player. He only shot 2 for 12, 1 for 7 from deep. That's a big hit. And then also Tariq Key got 34 minutes as well.
Mhm.
Or sorry, they 34. Vescovi got 36 and shot only 3 for 10. So things have to change for that team, for those guys. They got to balance out, and they've lost some disappointing games. I mean, only 2 losses, but these are games where they're hanging in there. And it seems like Tennessee can win, but when on nights where they struggle scoring, struggle shooting,
Mhm.
it's going to be tough sledding for Tennessee. You saw it last year in the tournament against Michigan. You saw it this year where they lost to Colorado, and obviously now where they lost to Arizona. It was a team that honestly just outperformed from an offensive perspective.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Tennessee's another SEC team that's going to be a problem, and for teams like Kentucky, I know Kentucky's one of their biggest rivals is Tennessee, but if Kentucky can't figure out ways to score consistently and shoot the 3-point shot at a high clip, they're going to struggle
Mm-hmm.
against teams like Tennessee because they're going to
Yep.
put up a ton of points. All right, do you want to talk about Xavier, Michigan State, real quick?
Yep. We'll do that real quick. I mean, yeah, I guess I can start with Michigan State. Michigan State has had a very nice and long break, much needed after playing games like basically in a row. They've been traveling a ton. They enter conference play and they lost to Northwestern. Then they go to Penn State. Like they've been playing everywhere. And after a solid win, now they against a very bad team, but now they faced Oakland. That's coming up on Wednesday. They finally have a game. Um, it's not a bad Oakland team by any means. They have Rocket Watts, a former player at Michigan State,
Rocket
but
Watts.
oh yeah,
It's a name.
Rocket Watts. I know. His name. I don't think his name's not actually Rocket, but it's a nickname. Anyway,
That's cool.
it's a game they gotta win. They gotta take. They've had a break. I know fresh legs is nice. Guys back from injury is
Mhm.
also nice. I'm not 100% sure if Malik Hall's back yet, but he will be back before we get back into conference play. So that will be very nice to have him. Recently, Hunter Dickinson on a podcast, big Michigan center,
Your
said some
favorite
stuff,
person?
had some words about the Michigan State basketball team, had some words about Michigan State fans. And I hope you listen in because he was calling that team soft. He was calling Michigan State fans wannabes. They want to be Michigan fans, right? And I'm not going to react. I'm not happy with the comments, but I'm just going to say keep the receipt.
Okay.
I'm going to keep the receipt,
I,
right?
I know
Because
who's
they play in East Lansing first. You got to remember that. And that's coming up. So
okay.
keep the receipt. That's all I want you to know is keep the receipt. Okay. I can tell you right now, your guards are not good enough. They're not good enough.
Okay.
Maybe you'll squeak out. You'll get lucky. But on most nights, all right, your guards are definitely not good enough to guard ours. We got a 3-headed monster guard. You guys have transfers that have underperformed very much. And this entire team is basically run on the shoulders of Hunter Dickinson and that's the coach's son.
Okay. I
So
know whose jersey to give you for Christmas.
no, you
Um.
don't. You
Oh.
don't want to do that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why not?
No thanks. No
But on
thanks.
the flip side, if
I'll
Michigan
send it right
State
back.
beats Michigan, you have something to throw in the fire. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
something to mess around with.
Yep. This is
That's
the
a great
same
gift.
This is the same Michigan team that avoided Michigan State for COVID. Yeah.
All right. You done?
Hey, they okay.
No, no, no. I
Michigan
get
State went to Ann Arbor, right? They traveled to Ann Arbor. Michigan State was playing much better than Michigan at the time, and they were like
cough,
warming up
cough.
and stuff. Right, they were warming up.
Yeah.
Michigan said they didn't have enough players, even though a couple practices before they had to record how many players they had that weren't on the COVID list. They had plenty of guys. They had 2 guys out with COVID, 2 guys out.
Okay.
Brandon Johns and one of their starters. And they knew, oh, we probably can't compete right now. So what happens?
Some fishy stuff going
on. Yeah, I know. So yeah, I think it was, I don't know if it was like a Michigan, I don't know if it was an assistant or I don't know, but they basically came in and said, yeah, you're not playing today.
Okay.
And a lot of Michigan State players are not very happy about it. They were playing in a week in East Lansing. They took it to East Lansing, and Michigan State kicked the crap out of them.
Good for them.
The crap out of them. Yeah, that was a fun game. That was a great game.
Well, I'll be quick with Xavier. They got their first one in the Big East over Georgetown, 102-89 on Friday night. 0 defense played in this game. At least for Xavier, you saw what you already knew about them. They have a really good offense, very balanced. They share the ball extremely well. Their defense was a liability for most of the time. And Georgetown's got some good guards, but this is also a Georgetown team that hasn't won a conference game in 21 attempts. They are 0-21 in the Big East in their last 21 games. But Xavier found a way to get it done. Sule Boom, the UTEP transfer for Xavier, absolutely balled out. 28 points, 7 assists, 4 rebounds, and only 1 turnover during the game. Talk about efficiency in his first Big East game. He took over in the second half. Georgetown cut the lead to 3 at one point, and Sule Boom went on a personal 10-0 run, which was huge for the Musketeers. They move on to face the Seton Hall Pirates on Tuesday night on FS1 at 8:30 is the tip. Should be a good game. Shaheen Holloway is taking over as the Seton Hall Pirates head coach. That team's very tough, very gritty on the defensive end. Offensively, they don't have a ton of answers, but they do have some talented guards that are from the Kevin Willard days at Seton Hall. Sule Boom, because of his recent performance against Georgetown, was the Big East Player of the Week last week, and he was also on the honor roll the previous 2 weeks. So if you're Sean Miller or anybody around the Xavier program, talk about catching lightning in a bottle at the right time. He's been everything and more so far for Xavier. He's proven that he can be a closer for the team. He's a really good free throw shooter. You want him to have the ball down the stretch. There's going to be a lot of Big East games this year that are going to come down to the final minutes, and Xavier hasn't been very good in recent years at closing out games, especially close ones, and the ones at home that have gotten away from them have really bitten them going down the stretch. So Sule Boom, very important person. Kunkel, Colby Jones are shooting the ball extremely well. We'll see if the bench can get involved at all. Jerome Hunter had 4 fouls off the bench in the first half against Georgetown. So Xavier doesn't have a lot of depth, and any person that can come off the bench and help them is extremely valuable, especially towards the end of the Big East slate, since every school has to play 20 games this year for the first time ever. But excited for the game tomorrow. They're off, and I think their next game after this is against Georgetown or against St. John's on the road in Queens on the 28th.
And then they play Creighton.
And then they play
or not UConn.
Then they play UConn at home on
UConn,
New Year's Eve.
That's what I meant.
So got a couple tough games coming up, but if they can take care of business tomorrow night, that'll be 2-0 start for the Musketeers and heading into Christmas, which I think everybody can feel pretty good about. So
I'm gonna go my 3 key takeaways, negatives really, but 3 key takeaways that need to be fixed or improved on for Xavier.
Okay.
Pick and roll defense. Transition defense. Can you guess number 3?
So can we just say defense?
No, it's not defense. Well, kind of.
It's
foul trouble.
Well, most of that is defense.
Yeah,
that falls under the umbrella of defense.
Well, it could be an offensive foul.
They're not good at guarding the ball. And that pick and roll, very exploitable. They give up a ton of threes. Well,
Najee cannot move, and his positioning on pick and rolls
no.
is either I'm going to try to hedge, and then that one kid, Spears, Primo Spears, played really well.
Yeah.
He like all season he has looked like all Big East. He's
Mhm.
been awesome, and even though he doesn't play for the best team, he's easily the best
Yeah.
player, and
None
he exploited that Xavier pick and roll. And not only that, but like his mid range looks phenomenal. But anyway,
I think it's pretty much Xavier's season is going to be contingent on can Xavier come up with some stops. They don't have to come up with stops every possession. There's Miller's talked about this a ton of times, but there's only so much resistance that this team, this group can have because Nunji, Fremantle, Hunter, Deontay Miles, all the big guys on the roster, Cesar Edwards, um, they're not defensive strengths in any stretch of the imagination. But if you can get something from them, that's huge. I think if they can, if their guards can keep people in front of them, that's going to help a lot. So we'll see what happens, and we'll go from there. But if they start out 2-0 in Big East play, that's a good start. I think they can get to 12 or 13 wins if they're playing really well. There's some tough teams, but we'll see what happens.
okay. So this week we have three, count them, 1, 2, 3 rankums.
Okay.
All right. So we're gonna start off with number one, MLB related. Three players that are totally different, you know.
Okay.
But you have to pick one.
Hmm.
You gotta let's see, but just rank them in the order that you'd like them on your team. And I'm
Okay.
not talking on the current Reds or the current Tigers. I'm talking who would you want, right? If you could build a team around them, who would you want? So
Okay.
we're gonna start. All right, three guys: Aaron Judge, Shohei Otani, and Justin Verlander. All guys in their prime, right? We're not. Let's get rid of age for a moment. Let's just pick the guys in their prime. Let's say they're not hurt either. Who would you want in
Um,
order?
in order, I'll go Judge, Otani, Verlander, and I
Okay.
can explain why. Um, Aaron Judge is an everyday player, and um, he's a good defender, can hit the crap out of the ball, as you saw
Mhm.
last year, and he's also one of the best leaders around Major League Baseball. And I think if you have a guy, especially an everyday player in baseball, that is there every day, shows up every day, puts up incredible numbers, but also leads by example and can be a vocal leader for a team, that's invaluable in any sport. And that attracts players to want to play with them. And it makes it easier on the managers. It makes it easier on the organization to find pieces because if there's certain people that are really good at playing with Judge, chances are they're going to be very beneficial to the
Mhm.
team. But I think it's also easier to find guys that don't fit the culture or the organization. Shohei is great because he can do two things. He can hit and also pitch, which is
Uh,
killing two birds with one stone. And talk about the most valuable player of in baseball right now. It's probably him, just because of the variety of things that he can do.
mhm.
But he's only 2 or 3 years into this, and I don't know how long he can sustain everything. He's one of the
Right.
most exciting players in baseball, no question.
Mhm.
And he's one of the most fun guys to watch. But I don't know if he's got the personality per se to be that really big leader in
Yeah.
the clubhouse, lead by
Uh-huh.
example. He's an incredible player, but I don't know if he's fully got that. And the reason I have Verlander at 3 is he only plays one every 5 days.
That's
And
true.
if you're going to start a team, I would much rather err on the side of position player than pitcher.
That's
Um,
why I wanted to change it up and get your perspective on that.
yeah,
I could have gone like
yeah,
Judge, Trout, and Mookie Betts, but
yeah.
I
I
didn't.
mean,
I could have gone like that.
pitchers are incredibly important. Like if you have a good
Mhm.
rotation, you're going to be in every game.
Yeah.
If you have a good pitching staff, you're going to be in every game.
Mhm.
But also, you only play one every 5 days if you're a
Yeah.
starter. And I would want some guy that's there every day, going through it. That's really a part of the grind because the pitchers, obviously, they do things on the days that they're not playing, but it's not anywhere near the actual intensity of playing a game. But
Right.
If I'm starting a rotation, heck yeah, I'm picking Verlander. But
Mhm.
yeah. What's
I
the next
think
one?
I
Or
think I would have gone the same, basically the same. I think I would have flipped Otani and Judge,
okay.
for the two kill two birds with one
Hmm.
stone kind of reason. But again, great points made. So the next one, what was it? um, okay, it was if you could pick something to have for dinner tonight, right? You got salmon, you got chicken, you got steak. What would it be?
Steak, chicken, salmon.
Okay. I was gonna go salmon. I had a
Shocker.
really good salmon
Shocker.
last night.
Okay.
What?
Well, you
All
have
right,
salmon
salmon.
all the time.
It was good.
I'm not I'm not
If I
saying
could, okay, this is how I'm feeling right now. Right. If I had to pick a meal, like my last meal, I would pick steak. I would pick like this Brazilian steakhouse kind of mix where I'd have, you know, all of these different steaks and then different appetizers.
okay.
But I'd go steak, or sorry, I'd go salmon for tonight. I'd go salmon, I'd go steak, and I go chicken.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like it.
that's a different. Oh, what was the last one though? Okay. Yes. All right. So they are all younger point guards in the NBA,
Hmm.
and I know you'll recognize the names, right?
Okay.
You have Lamelo Ball, you have Ja Morant, and you have Trey Young.
I'm gonna go Ja Morant, Trey Young, LaMelo Ball.
That was my
I
order
don't
too. I
think there's really much debate in that. And Ja Morant's one of the most exciting players in the NBA. He's freaky athletic, can score,
Mhm.
can shoot, can do everything. But also, he's not one of those guys that I think is really unselfish. He's an incredible passer. And you saw at his time at Murray State, that was one of the things that he was really valued for, especially at the point guard position, is
Mhm.
facilitating the offense. He averaged almost 10 assists a game. And in the NBA, where there is zero defense, if he's not scoring, he's assisting on a play. And that is invaluable to have. Trey Young can score with anybody in the league. And he's also got that heel mentality that makes him very tough. And
Yep.
you could say what you want about him. You might not like him, but he's playing his role perfectly. And if you face him in the playoffs, like he did against the Knicks a couple years ago, where he started all that smack talk with all the Knicks fans, um, he's a good player. And I know he's cocky, arrogant, whatever, but you got to give him his due. And then LaMelo
Mhm.
Ball, he's a good player. He's very talented, but he's no leader by any means. It's social
Yep.
media player.
Yep.
Um,
That's the
that's
issue
not
is
somebody I would want to start the team with.
t- two of the three have been proven leaders. Two of
Mhm.
the three have been in the playoffs,
Yeah.
and one hasn't been in the playoffs, and he's not a proven leader. I think he has potential to be a leader,
Mhm.
right? But he hasn't hasn't yet. So that's a team that the Hornets really need a leader. They're missing
Yeah.
that type of guy, even though Gordon Hayward's on the team, but you would probably want another leader, like a superstar kind of deal. But anyway, I would also pick Morant the same order: Morant, Young, and then Lamelo, just because I like what John Morant did last year, getting his team to the 2 seed in the West. And I know they didn't go extremely far in the playoffs,
Mhm.
but um, he still like took that team, one the youngest team in the NBA, to the playoffs from play in to playoffs, and it was from like what 8 seed or
Yeah.
whatever to hey, look at this, we actually were comfortably in the playoffs, and they're trying to do the same this year. They've had some health concerns over the past 2 seasons, but once that team's healthy, they're so tough to stop.
Yeah. Oh,
And
for
then
sure.
Trey Young with DeJounte Murray and that team, they're also going to be very difficult. Um, Another great leader, another great player in general. I think both guys struggle on defense a little bit, but I think Ja, even though he's inconsistent on defense, is a better defender. Trey
Yeah.
Young is just not a defender. He's a total scorer.
No.
And then you have Lamelo, and Lamelo's Lamelo.
Yeah.
If you were in a different situation with a different coach, I think they could
Yeah.
they could do better with him.
He could
But
be a good glue guy, but he's not.
yeah,
I don't think he's a
I think they need
leader.
to. I don't. He's a star, but they need a leader. That team
Yeah.
needs a leader.
That's yeah.
Okay.
All
Well,
right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in
yep.
to episode number 14 of the Quick Question Podcast. Um, Thank you guys for tuning in. We will have some sort of episode next week. I don't know if Matt's going to be here because he's on vacation, but we will throw something out, even if it's just me, which I'm sure everybody would love. But thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you next week and have a wonderful Christmas. Merry Christmas to everyone.